Hello and welcome to India Business Eye. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Here are the headlines we are tracking this evening. Israel launches a full-scale attack. Lebanon, over 100 people killed and 400 wounded after Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon. We hear from their health ministry that there have been several people killed, more than 182, and close to 1,000 people have been injured. JP CEO Jamie Dimon says India is doing a lot of right things and he is optimistic about growth prospects. Stops short of endorsing either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris in the US presidential race. Also says he does not expect to become the next US Treasury Secretary. That's an exclusive. Sensex and Nifty hit a record high once again as bulls maintain the winning momentum. Nifty nears 26,000. Sensex is also within touching distance of 85,000. A SEBI study shows 93% of individual traders incurred losses in futures and options. Aggregate losses exceed 1.8 lakh crore rupees in the last 3 years. Retail investors lost 61,000 crore rupees in FY24. Algorithms helped foreign funds make profits of nearly 59,000 crore rupees in the last financial year. Prime Minister Modi meets Google's Sundar Pichai, Nvidia's Jensen Huang and other major tech CEOs in New York. US and India signed an agreement to set up a fabrication plant to manufacture semiconductors for military use. Facing AGR dues of over 70,000 crore rupees, Vodafone Idea CEO says there is an understanding with the government on the merits of the case, which he believes is quite strong. Vodafone Idea shares rally after the company signed a 30,000 crore rupee deal with Nokia, Samsung and Ericsson for 4G and 5G equipment supply for 3 years. Beleaguered airline SpiceJet promises to restore its reputation after completing a 3,000 crore rupee fundraise. Chairman Ajay Singh says proceeds will be used to recover grounded fleet, acquire new aircraft and expand into new markets. SEBI clears MobiKwik's IPO proposal. The payment platform, which got the SEBI go-ahead in October 2021, as well refiled its papers in January this year. They plan to raise around 700 crores, which is close to one-third of what they had planned during their first IPO attempt. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says India will not join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, dubbed as the world's largest trade deal. Goyal says it is not in India's interest to sign a free trade agreement with China. That's an exclusive. Aam Aadmi Party leader Atishi takes charge as Delhi Chief Minister, cites a Ramayana as she leaves the seat occupied by her predecessor Kejriwal vacant. Sri Lanka gets its first leftist president. Anura Kumara Dissanayake, popularly known as AKD, is sworn in as the nation's 9th president. He vows to preserve democracy and clean public life. Critically acclaimed Hindi film Lapata Ladies is India's official entry to the Oscars. The Kiran Rao directorial is selected from a list of 29 films by a 13-member jury. Let's start with the market action. Sensex and Nifty hit fresh record highs in trade as bulls maintain the winning momentum. Sensex gained nearly 400 points to move closer to the 85,000 mark. The Nifty gained nearly 150 points and is now within touching distance of 26,000. Mid-caps outperformed the blue chips. And let's get you more market news now. A SEBI study has revealed that 93% of individual traders incurred losses in futures and options. SEBI has updated its earlier study, which found 89% of retail traders lost money in FY22. This new study spans 3 financial years from FY22 to FY24. The study shows aggregate losses for individual investors crossed 1.8 lakh rupees. Retail investors alone lost 61,000 crore rupees in FY24. So who is making profits? According to the SEBI study, algorithms helped foreign funds and property desks pocket nearly 59,000 crore rupees in profits in the last financial year. So a SEBI study laying it bare that retail investors are losing money in F&O and algorithm trading is making hefty profits. Onto a CNBC TV exclusive now. Veteran banker and JP Morgan's global CEO Jamie Dimon has said that India is doing a lot of right things and has shown optimism about growth prospects. Speaking to Prashant Nair, he stopped short of endorsing either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris in the US presidential race. He also added that he does not expect to become the next US Treasury Secretary.
Since I've been here, we've gone from 6,000 employees here to 60,000. And they're across all things, data, scientists, engineering, We cover 150 companies in research and banking, 850 multinationals coming here, custody, asset management. We've just been growing with the country, and your country's been growing quite well, and I'm quite optimistic about the future of India.
People listen to you. People look at what you say. Who are you supporting, if I can put it bluntly?
I'm not endorsing anyone at this time.
Okay.
I spend more of my time on policy. What's the policy we need that can really help both the world, that's foreign policy, and domestically? Right. And I would have a negative income tax. I would have better permitting. I'd reduce certain regulations. I would love schools to judge themselves on when the kids, high schools and community college, when they graduate, what kind of job do they get? You know, and so you're focusing on the outcome, not just, you know, the input.
There's been a talk that if Mr. Trump, in an interview he said this, that he may tap you to be the Treasury Secretary, Mr. Diamond. I just wanted to ask you
He
this.
said, like, the next day, definitely not. So I don't expect to be the Treasury Secretary.
And you can catch the entire conversation with Jamie Dimon from 7 a.m. tomorrow right here on CNBC TV 18. Tensions between Israel and Lebanon continue to rise. Over 180 people have been killed and over 700 wounded in South Lebanon after Israel launched 150 airstrikes across the country. Lebanon's health ministry has said that children, women and paramedics are among those killed and wounded in the attacks. Israel has warned Lebanese civilians to evacuate homes and other buildings where Hezbollah has allegedly stored their weapons. Lebanon has said that at least 80,000 suspected Israeli calls were traced asking people to leave their homes. Joining me now is Elijah Magnier, veteran war correspondent. He's joining us from France. Elijah, thank you very much for joining us. Are Israel and Lebanon creeping closer to a full-blown war?
Well, actually, it is a decision of Israel to increase the bombardment and start a new aerial bombardment against Lebanon. And I spoke to several people in the south of Lebanon. They told me they have received the instruction from the Israelis to evacuate, and after just a few minutes, the bombardment started, and many people, while evacuating, were hurt, and many of them were killed. And in fact, there are reports that the number of fatality can go much more than between 200 to 300, and there are mainly civilians that were caught while evacuating a huge area in the south of Lebanon. And it is expected, actually, for this military campaign and by aerial bombing to last for many days. So it is an indiscriminate bombing against the Lebanese civilians, and there are no signs that it's going to end any soon.
Right. Now, Israel has been saying that ever since the 7th of October last year, Hezbollah has been continuously attacking them. And right now they claim what they are targeting is not civilians, but Hezbollah havens. Do you expect, considering that the Lebanon Health Ministry is saying that civilians are being killed, could the military of Lebanon now carry out any kind of retaliatory operation against Israel, or you think it's unlikely?
Well, we've heard President Joe Biden telling us that there are at least 30,000 children and women, civilian in Gaza, that have been killed, while the Israelis told us that there are no civilians killed. So this paradox of information is very clear. It's exactly the same in Lebanon. The Israelis will always say that they are targeting the military, while the Lebanese health ministry is considering the militant as part of the Lebanese. It is considered that most of the fatality are civilians, and Hezbollah is part of the government and part of the parliament. Therefore, it is acknowledged and adopted by the Lebanese government that Hezbollah is part of the resistance. When Hezbollah started the campaign on the 8th of October, it has started it in the area that Israel still occupy in the south of Lebanon. But then the Israelis widened the bombardment, and this is where the bombardment took another shape. And in the since last week, on Tuesday, when the Israeli carried out a sabotage attack, and then again on Wednesday, and now a huge military aerial campaign, we see that this is going a bit in a different direction.
All right. Thank you very much, Elijah, for joining us on the program with that perspective on the tensions between Israel and Lebanon right now. And staying with tensions in the Middle East, at least 7 people have died after Israeli forces hit a school sheltering housing refugees in northern Gaza. Israel has claimed that it attacked the school to kill Hamas fighters hiding inside the compound. This attack comes a day after Israel attacked another school in the region, killing 22 people, including 13 children and 6 women. Oil prices edged higher, boosted by supply concerns. This as the market expected the conflict in the Middle East to impact supply in the key producing regions. Meanwhile, gold prices extended gains to scale a record high today. Prices of the yellow metal continue to be driven by the momentum generated by the Federal Reserve's interest rate cut. Safe haven demand due to geopolitical risks in the Middle East also supported prices. It's the final day of Prime Minister Modi's US visit now. That's right. We are talking about the final day of Prime Minister's US visit. After the Quad Summit and a bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden, the Prime Minister met top US business leaders. Modi met 15 CEOs of top American tech companies, including Alphabet's Sundar Pichai and NVIDIA's Jensen Huang in New York. He underscored India's potential to become a global partner in the semiconductor sector. He also signed an agreement with President Joe Biden to set up a fabrication plant to manufacture semiconductors for military use. The unit will be set up in Uttar Pradesh's Jewar. This is the first India-US semiconductor fab cooperation of its kind.
The Prime Minister has been focused on transforming India with his Digital India vision. He pushed us to continue making in India, designing in India. We are proud to now make our Pixel phones manufactured in India. He is really thinking about how AI can transform India in a way that benefits the people of India. He challenged us to think about applications in healthcare, education, agriculture.
Artificial intelligence is also a new industry, a new manufacturing industry that's very important. And so I'm looking forward to partnering with India in a very deep way to make that possible. AI in a lot of ways is very complicated technology, but in the end, what it enables a country to do is take advantage of technology, take advantage of computers in a way that has never been possible before. And so AI really democratized computing. This is India's moment. You have to seize the opportunity.
It's a significant milestone, and our semiconductor journey has just begun. So any milestone is very, very crucial and very important, and so is this case. But I would look much beyond that, actually. The United States semiconductor companies hold 50% market share of the global semiconductor market. So this year we are expecting about $600 billion global market, $300 billion is the United States companies. So this partnership with US is very critical and very, very important.
We plan to begin operations within 3 years. We hope to be able to break ground by January of next year, so very soon. Within 3 years, we hope to be able to start with the first phase of production, which is approximately 50,000 wafers a year. Our objective is to start with, plugging the requirements and gaps that the Indian Armed Forces have right now in terms of, critical electronic item imports into India, and then in phase 2, as we scale, to start exporting as well.
Telecom operator Vodafone Idea's shares surged after the company inked a $3.6 billion deal with Nokia, Ericsson and Samsung. This comes just days after Supreme Court dismissed the telecom firm's curative plea seeking a review of its AGR dues worth 70,300 crore rupees, including the interest cost. Remember, in 2019, the Telecom Department estimated Vodafone Idea's AGR dues to be a little over 58,000 crore rupees compared to the company's assessment of 21,500 crore rupees. The company has claimed that the DOT made a calculation error while calculating dues. On a conference call with investors, Vodafone Idea CEO Akshay Mundra has said that there is an understanding with the government on the merits of the case, which he believes is quite strong.
We have been engaging with various senior government officials. While there was a hope that the courts will obviously consider the petition, the fact that the court has not done so means that the now action and responsibility in some ways falls squarely along with the government. The government has since that time asked us to put together a comprehensive view of what we believe would be the right mechanism and requests that we can make for addressing this challenge, because I think there is a very clear understanding in the government that it should not be fair to have to ask us to pay for something which is a calculation error.
SpiceJet has successfully raised 3,000 crores through its recently concluded QIP. The airline informed the stock exchanges that the QIP was significantly oversubscribed by qualified investors. Madhiya Mujawar joins us now to take us through the airline's outstanding dues and multiple issues the airline is facing and whether this fundraise is enough to bring the airline back to health. Madhiya.
Well, 3,000 crores is certainly a lifeline for SpiceJet that has been cash-strapped for a few years now. The airline plans to use these funds to revive its grounded fleet, acquire new aircraft, invest in technology and expand into new markets. That's the plan. In fact, Ajay Singh said that he aims to use the funds to revive or restore the airline's reputation for efficiency and reliability. Now, let's look at what the airline is staring at. Apart from salary payments, the airline hasn't paid Provident Fund for 2.5 years. TDS, which is deducted from employees' salary, is also not deposited. That comes to over 650 crores. Then there are several lessors which have taken the airline to courts for non-payment of dues as well as seeking their planes and engines back. Now, before the QIP, SpiceJet had disclosed that it owes a total of 3,700 crores only to the lessors. Then there are pending dues of oil companies as well as airports. We saw incidents in the last few weeks where SpiceJet flights were not allowed to take off due to non-payment of dues either to oil companies or airport operator. The fleet is down to less than 28 planes according to SpiceJet. The shrinking business has impacted its operations with flights down by 50% since January to just 2,700 flights in August. That, of course, has brought the market share down from 5.6% in January to 2.3% in August. So 3,000 crores is definitely not going to take away the airline's huge pile of dues and debt, but it could certainly give it a breather to get back on its feet and keep running.
Chinese smartphone brand Xiaomi has asked the Competition Commission to recall its antitrust report on the company and Flipkart, which states that both the entities breached competition laws. As per a report by Reuters, Xiaomi claimed that the report contained sensitive information. They added that this information was supposed to be redacted before it was shared with the involved parties. Moving on, payment aggregator MobiKwik has received a nod from market regulator SEBI to raise 700 crore rupees via an initial public offering. The funds will be raised entirely through fresh issue of equity shares with no offer for sale component. Ritu Singh is joining us now with all the details. Ritu, give us a sense of the objectives of the DRHP, the key risks involved.
Well, it's been over 3 years in the making to begin with, and now finally they've received SEBI's approval for a 700 crore rupee IPO. The offering, with a face value of 2 rupees per share, is going to be an entirely fresh issue of equity shares, and there's no offer for sale component, which means none of the existing shareholders are going to be exiting in this IPO. Now, remember, they had initially filed IPO papers in July of 2021, but those plans were shelved because of unfavorable market conditions following Paytm's IPO in November, and the company then refiled its papers in January of this year, scaling down its IPO size, by the way, by 63% from 1,900 crores earlier to 700 crores now. Now, according to the DRHP, MobiKwik could also consider a pre-IPO placement of shares of about 140 crore rupees, and that will reduce the fresh issue size accordingly if it happens. Now, key shareholders in the company include Bajaj Finance, Peak XV, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, and American Express. Now, as far as the proceeds of the IPO are concerned, MobiKwik plans to allocate about 250 crores to expand its financial services distribution business, which currently, we understand, contributes about 64% of the revenues. 135 crores will go towards funding its payment services. That accounts for another 36% of the revenues. Another 135 crores is earmarked for investments in technology, 70 crores for its payment devices business, and the remainder for general corporate purposes. Now, keep in mind, MobiKwik only recently turned profitable in FY24, which is 15 years after its inception, reporting a 14.1 crore of profit and 875 crores of revenue from operations for the year. As of September last year, they had a registered user base of 147 million and merchant base of 3.81 million.
All right. Thank you very much, Ritu. Ritu has been tracking this story about MobiKwik and she's getting us all the details about their proposed IPO. Moving on, NTPC Green Energy, the renewable energy arm of NTPC, will likely launch its initial public offering in the first week of November. Sources say the company is expected to conduct roadshows in various Mumbai, London, US and Singapore and other regions to attract investments. Last week, the company filed its IPO papers with the SEBI to raise 10,000 crore rupees. Its IPO will be the biggest initial share sale by a public sector company since LIC's 21,000 crore rupee offer. The government is considering a turnaround plan to revive 3 public general insurance companies. Sources have said that the centre plans to turn these companies into profitable units via a fundraise or through infusing capital. On that note, on India Business Hour, we are moving on and getting you more international news. Sri Lanka getting its first leftist president, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, popularly known as AKD, is sworn in as the nation's 9th president. Details in just a bit. And you can also catch all CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. India has ruled out joining the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. The deal, signed by 15 Asia-Pacific countries in 2020, including China as the world's largest trade pact. It came into effect in 2022. In an interview with CNBC, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said that it is not in India's interest to be a part of a free trade agreement with China. He added that the deal does not reflect the aspirations of the country's micro, small and medium industries and farmers.
We already had an FTA with Japan and Korea. The Australia FTA was on the verge of finalization. Instead of finalizing that, we put that into the back burner and focused on RCEP.
Sure.
And New Zealand, we don't have much business interest. At that point of time, the total bilateral trade was about $300 million. So effectively, the only country left was China. And certainly nobody back home would like to have an FTA with a non-transparent economy, very opaque in its economic practices, where both trading systems, political systems, the economy, the way it is managed is completely different from what the democratic world wants.
Anura Kumara Dissanayake, popularly known as AKD, was sworn in as Sri Lanka's 9th president. The 55-year-old leftist leader beat his nearest rival, Sajith Premadasa, in a historic second round of counting, which included second preference votes. Dissanayake contested as the candidate of the National People's Power Alliance. He had won 3% of the presidential votes in 2019. He is the leader of the JVP, a Marxist political party, which was at the forefront of the armed revolt against the Sri Lankan government in the late 80s. Dissanayake had led a delegation of the National People's Power Alliance to India in February and met External Affairs Minister Jaishankar. Aam Aadmi Party leader Atishi took charge as Delhi's 8th chief minister, days after her predecessor Arvind Kejriwal, in a surprise move, stepped down. Citing the Ramayana and comparing herself with Bharat, she placed an empty chair beside her in a symbolic gesture towards her predecessor Arvind Kejriwal. Atishi vowed to govern the capital city for the next 4 months until the assembly elections and expressed her hope that the people will reinstate Kejriwal as the chief minister. She has retained 13 portfolios, including education, revenue, finance, power, among others.
मैंने दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री का कार्यभार संभाला है, जिम्मेदारी संभाली है। आज मेरे मन की वही व्यथा है जो भरत जी की थी, जब भगवान श्री राम 14 वर्ष के लिए अयोध्या से वनवास पे गए और भरत जी को अयोध्या का शासन संभालना पड़ा। जिस तरह भरत जी ने 14 साल तक भगवान श्री राम की खड़ाऊ रखकर अयोध्या का शासन संभाला, उसी तरह से आने वाले 4 महीने के लिए मैं दिल्ली सरकार चलाऊंगी।
The Supreme Court has ruled that downloading or watching child pornography can be an offence under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. With this, the court has set aside an earlier Madras High Court order that ruled that such acts would not count as an offence. The top court also suggested that the Parliament should bring a law to replace the term child pornography with child sexual exploitative and abusive material. This, the court said, would reflect more accurately on the reality of such offences. Onto a CNBC TV 18 exclusive now. The ministerial panel on GST rate rationalization and real estate is set to meet in Goa over the next 2 days. Timsi Jaipuria now joins us with all the details. Timsi, what will be on the agenda during these meetings?
GST Council nominated group of ministers on boosting real estate and rate rationalization are all set to meet in Goa. The two panels are likely to meet over the next 2 days. Firstly, the GOM to meet on real estate, which is likely to be there tomorrow under the chairmanship of Pramod Sawant, Chief Minister of Goa. This GOM is likely to discuss some of the key pressing points, including treatment of GST on property purchased in group housing or commercial set, which is built up by a builder. Should GST be there on comprehensive cost or only on the cost of construction, exempting the land costs? Secondly, whether GST should be exempt on long-term leasing of industrial properties, whether GST should be exempt on redevelopment of group housing or buildings if ownership remains the same. Next is to review value of 45 lakhs as the definition of affordable housing for metro cities and whether this affordable housing set should have a separate GST treatment or relaxation. Next is the group of ministers on rate rationalization, which is likely to meet on 25th of September under chairmanship of Samrat Chaudhary, Deputy Chief Minister of Bihar. The group of ministers is likely to discuss again on the exemption or rate reduction on premium of health and life insurance. Secondly, treatment of GST on non-alcoholic beverages, overall rate changes of goods and services, identifying sectors which need urgent attention. Further, correction of inverted duty structure wherever required. Overall food products, snacks, etc. taxed at different rates, whether there should be a one comprehensive rate. Also, rates on transportation of goods by courier, air, road, etc. are different currently. Should there be a single rate? Next, rates differ on restaurants, at hotels, standalone restaurants, special category restaurants. Shouldn't all of these be only at one rate? All of this is on the agenda. Let's see what happens once the group of ministers meet and conclude. Back to you.
All right. Important GST-related meetings in Goa over the next 2 days. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you for watching. News continues right here on CNBC TV 18.